Hello and welcome to this webinar. We are going to be spending the next 40-ish minutes together with you. We are myself, I'm Martin, and my colleague Javier. And we are going to be introducing you to how we are working on creating a positive impact at and around Umbraco. And we hope that we can inspire you, and we want to share some knowledge that can hopefully make you, or some of you, leave today with some ideas on how to either start or continue your own impact journey. Just a quick introduction to the two of us. My colleague Javier, he's a sustainability champion and an impact champion. He comes from a very well-known international company where he's been building sustainability, the sustainability program of that company, and also taking them through the process of becoming a certified B Corp. And Javier, he joined us here in 2022 at Umbraco. And myself, I've been in Umbraco since 2016, and I've been working with, or I have a background in marketing and communications, and then I've been working with sustainability for the last 3-ish years or so. And for the agenda, we are going to give you a perspective of the challenges of creating a positive impact in our professional activities, and then we'll be going into some examples showing you how we've been facing our impact challenge, both in terms of our impact report, which you might have seen, and also I'm going to dive into what we've been doing in terms of calculating our CO2 footprint and acting upon that. And then we are going to cover the strategies for the future, our strategies for the future. And finally, we will leave you with the 5 of our core learnings in our journey so far. And with that, I'll hand the word over to you, Javier.
Thank you, Martin. I will try to control the clicker. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So to start the discussion of this topic about impact and positive impact, I've been involved in many discussions during the years. And I think it's quite valuable to start a little bit from basics and trying to understand a little bit from the goals of a company and how positive impact can be part of those. So if we go a little bit back on time and we do a little bit of history, the ultimate goal of an organization is been changing a little bit in the last years. From the theory of capitalism and etc., we know that around the 50s, the absolutely main goal and purpose of a company was to create basically wealth, prosperity. That was moving the industries, especially in the Western countries, in a really good pace until the lovely 80s, when basically the new doctrine of maximizing benefits and shareholder value became the dominant doctrine, with pros and with cons, so to speak. And that comes along the fact that, you know, the development of the financial markets at that time was like pushing very heavily into this direction. But the paradigm changed a little bit around 2000, when many companies, some of the largest in the world, they start to realize that maximizing shareholder value was simply not good enough, was creating a lot of inefficiencies, was creating a lot of turmoil around. And many of those, they discovered that it was more important for a company to deliver a long-term value, not only for the main shareholders or investors, to also expand a little bit the idea of shareholders a little bit beyond that. Investors, clients, employees, and of course, the point of society. In the business cases, in the books, there's like a lot of those. ABM is a really key one. If at some point you're curious, I invite you to take a look to it. But the important thing is not that this paradigm change, is why. And why these companies, they decide to pass from basically create wealth or maximize shareholder value to also create this positive impact. And the reasons, there are many, of course. I will try to just basically nail this into something pretty simple. The number one reason, and probably the most important one, is basically delivering long-term value to different kind of shareholders, create a better financial stability and growth for the companies. The turmoil of maximizing shareholder profit sometimes is not paying off in the long term. And we know that the approach of a little bit more long-term value is helping to retain investors, looking for more stable returns, and over time remove speculation. So the markets start to approach this as a more sustainable way of growing. On top of that, this long-term value support puts the clients in the center. So we know that when we deliver value long-term to our clients, our partners, or even our employees, obviously the satisfaction and the loyalty increase. And that's something that has been proved already in business several times. And talking about employees in particular, it's also been proved that companies that they have a positive impact strategy develop a more engaged working force and help them to retain and develop this more positively in the future. Also, something quite interesting around that is the companies that they have been following this path, they are becoming more innovative because they have to do things slightly different. And also they tend to be more resilient to competition and to waves that changing the market. During this webinar today, we're going to talk a lot about this innovation and how we have been facing this in our journey. Another very important thing is regulatory compliance and risk management. Also well known when companies, they look ahead to deliver value to different stakeholders, the risk of regulatory challenges and the risk management per se is getting a little bit toning down, which obviously it's something that we all like in the long term. And the most important one, at least for some of us, is societal impact helps companies to build not only a good foundation to attract employees and create better financial base, also to basically improve brand reputation and be sure that they can remain in the future as an important company. So there's many reasons to basically find this approach of create a little bit more impactful elements in your company, but it's difficult. And the learning that we have here in Umbraco and the learnings of some of us in the past is not an easy thing to achieve. And there is many different challenges. When I was advising companies and talking to a lot of my peers on the Big Corp in the past, we talk about basically three main challenges. The number one is, of course, we are pointing to different stakeholders, but it's difficult to balance the interest of some of those. Your investors, they might have a different set of priorities that your employees, they might have a different set of priorities than your customers. So finding this sweet spot as a company on how to start to deliver positive change is sometimes a question of give and take. Of course, economical pressure in all companies. We all have to perform. We all have some financial goals to reach and some targets to achieve. And sometimes the profit targets goes against the investment path to create a more positive impact in the long term. Thanks God, in most of the modern management teams and management systems, this is an open discussion about this is not only about squeezing the lemons to the max, it's about to be 100% sure that we're going to have lemons for the future. And probably the most difficult one, because everybody wants to basically do good and make good as a company, but the most difficult one is the innovation part. We have to do things differently. We need to, as a company, sometimes force us to look to the problems with different angles, making sacrifices and creating this positiveness around the things that we do. And hopefully today we're going to inspire you a little bit into that. That's the main reason because we decided to share this path with you. And hopefully at the end of this webinar, you're going to have a couple of ideas to make you reflect and hopefully go back to your organization and start or continue this journey. Okay? So bear with me for a second because we're going to talk about our favorite topic lately, that is us. So no, we try to don't make a shameless plug here, but at least we're going to tell you a little bit what are we doing to basically create a positive impact. First of all, we need to understand that each company is different. We all have different natures, we all have different business, we all have in different industries, even though most of the people in this webinar is on the CMS, digital experience and internet industries. But in general, we all have different starting points. The starting point of Umbraco is a little bit unique. We're talking about, we have been making progressive impact almost from the absolutely very beginning. When this company started in 2005, we bring this idea of we are an open source product. Because of that, there is a positive impact about customers that they didn't have to basically pay a license to use our services. And them as a company, there was like a huge focus on also well-being of employees and working very well with the working force. Very early, actually, a year later, we start to open a little bit more and bring the community around, also create a great impact in some other people that there was not directly linked to Umbraco, but they were like starting to build this ecosystem. There is a positive impact around that from, as I said, from the very beginning. And this journey continued until 2017, when we start to open our partner network, start to work with some other companies in a different way, offering services in a different way, supporting, and especially with the very center idea of taking care of the customers and put them in the center. So, of course, many companies, they have been doing this journey as we did it. In our case, was kind of a natural one. During this process, we also, as many other companies, we are trying to do good. There is like dozens of initiatives for us that they are being done by us, that they are being very impactful outside, in our customers, in our employees, around the community. And around 2022 was the first time that we set and we make the first strong mark is, okay, let's look to our impact ambition. Let's start to basically formalizing this commitment and thinking on this ambition for the future. Because of that, in 2022, we produced our first impact report. I'm going to touch briefly about it later, and Martin will dip a little bit more. And this journey continue because obviously committing on these ambitions is great, but we discovered that we don't only have to commit it on the things that we like to do. We need to frame this better and create what we call it the strategies for the future. So in 2024, as the last chapter so far of our journey, we decided to establish a framework to help us to develop a more scalable and sustainable company. And we're going to talk a little bit on that after that. Okay, so long story short, we start with this positive impact long time ago. In the last 2 years, it was the moment that we start to formalize this a little bit more in detail. So we did it, as I mentioned before, through the publication of our impact report. It's something that we commit as a company to be public and transparent on that, following our values and our principles, that we are a transparent company that want to basically show what we do outside. So we did 2 versions so far from 2022 and 2023. The last one has been published 6 weeks ago, if I recall correctly. The link is here. We are not going to go into detail, but I will touch briefly. Please, if you're curious, go through it. It's a quite interesting piece to read, and actually we are very proud of it. So during the creation of this impact report, we went through a lengthy process, especially in 2022, when was the first time to publish about what do we want to say and what we can claim as a company. We start with this principle that we are a company who does, not a company who talks. So everything that we do is not a promise. It's something that we report that is already passed. And of course, there's many ways to do these impact reports. We tailor-made the one that we believe it's better for us and is able to take our story better and explain our impact better. So we decided to basically be focused in 3 key shareholders, stakeholders, as you like to call it here. First is our clients and partners. The second is our community, people, of course. When we're talking about people, we're talking about our employees and also part of the society that we influence with the activities that we have. And the last one, of course, is the planet. When we look to this, obviously, in our clients and partners, we are being showing the incredible job done by many of the basically users of Umbraco, basically delivering incredible value to their clients or to their companies. Also, we're talking about the great commitment of the Umbraco community and how they are being tailored incredible solutions and also, you know, building great relations. I have to be honest about that. And then we also start to talk clearly about the influence that we have over people. First of all, for our employees, we detail clearly what are we doing internally to create a better place to work, what we have been doing around our working force, and also about the activities that we have been doing to support also people in need and other parts of the society that they are a bit more or less privileged that we are. Please go through it. It's a super interesting part to read, but probably the thing that is a bit more tricky and has more substance around that is the thing around the planet. So allow me to pass this to Martin. You know better.
Thank you, Javier. Well, at least about the planet, I hope that I know a bit better. So Javier has been covering the other parts of the business and how we've been creating impact with the people and partners, creating a positive impact with the planet as a shareholder was when we started this journey, leaving us sort of like with no idea where to begin. But luckily, due to where we've come with legislation and with the frameworks provided, we knew that we actually had a starting point. We started out looking at our own company in relation to the planet, looking at our products, looking at our industry, and identified, or at least attempted to identify, where do we have the biggest impact on the planet. Being in the online industry, creating software for the online industry, our products, they consume energy, land, and water when they are hosted. And then they also consume even more energy when data is being transferred. So that was the starting point, the starting idea that we had about our impact. Then we started, I might as well say it here and now, a lengthy process of reporting and analyzing our emissions. And I'm going to come back to how we did that. And then finally, we identified potential actions that we could then take as a result of this analysis. And what the framework that I referred to earlier that we have been using is outlined here. And this is a very, very busy slide. I apologize for that. Some of you have probably seen it before. But this is indicating or is an overview of the 3 scopes in the greenhouse gas initiative. When you are measuring your greenhouse gas emissions, you're probably aware of the term CO2e or CO2 equivalents. And this overview is giving you an idea of how you get to that. And if you look on the left-hand side, it's divided into, or starting from the left hand, it's divided into upstream activities. And then going into the middle, we have the reporting company, in this case, Umbraco. And then on the right-hand side, the downstream activities. Basically, to summarize it very roughly, what happens in the upstream activities is the creation and sale of our products. Then in the middle, our facilities, and in the downstream activities, that's the usage of our products. So it's, in other words, the entire value chain that we started digging into. And this all translates into this famous CO2e, CO2 equivalents, which is what we can use to both compare ourselves year over year with and compare to other companies as well. So we started the calculations back in 23, looking at the accounting year 22. And what we discovered was as we started out having a theory about that our the hosting and use of our products are substantial factors contributing to our emissions. And that also led to the two first actions here, that we need to ensure that we have sustainable hosting, and we need to ensure that Umbraco is running on the latest framework, because as you might be aware, in tech, an up-to-date framework is also more efficient and thus creating a smaller footprint. Then a surprise to us in our analysis is that our business flights are actually the second largest source of emissions. And as a consequence, we have an action to reduce our flights. And then we had our suppliers in scope 2 and 3 also providing quite a lot of our impact. So we implemented impact vetting of our new suppliers. So whenever we are taking on new suppliers, we are making sure that they are not too black or too unaware and are actually aware of how they are affecting the environment in their production. We also did some on-premise improvements, switched our energy supplier to suppliers with renewable energy when possible. And then last but not least, we wanted to advocate and educate, and a part of that is what we're doing today. Another important part is that we established a community sustainability team that worked with us on creating what ended up being best sustainability practices that are now released in how you implement Umbraco solutions to have the smallest possible footprint. And that's actually quite a substantial work that was put into that, and something that can help us not only at the production of our product, but also in the later implementation on reducing the impact of Umbraco. A sport tip, if you are not started yet or are about to start, then don't do as us and forget to document how you got to your numbers. Don't forget to document exactly how you got to the impact or the emissions of your flights or whatever. There are multiple ways of calculating, and you want your calculations to be as close to each other, preferably identical year after year, so you can do so you can compare and actually see your improvement, hopefully your improvement. And we had to do a lot of work twice because there were some of the numbers we were uncertain of how we got, so we had to go back. Then we ended up with these nice figures, as you can tell, hopefully from the graph here. We have our total emissions from 22 and 23, and then the 24 are our estimates. And during the work that we've done so far, we developed a few key principles. And the first one is to set goals for reduction in a way that allows for growth. And that's also the explanation behind us having two sets of graphs here. We actually implemented a goal that's related to the number of employees, so that when we do grow, we still have a target that is possible to aim for, unrelated to how much we grow. Then we the next two are connected. A principle is to implement changes to reduce and avoid emissions first, and then offset what can't be avoided. And yes, that means that we do offset. We believe that's actually a good way of doing things. But offsetting is not the primary or ideal solution. It is only when we cannot avoid and reduce anymore that we go to offsetting. And you can read more about how we are offsetting and what projects we are supporting in the impact report. Then, going a bit beyond only the CO2 emissions, our strategies for the future, we are going to be implementing some actionable frameworks. What we've done so far has been good. It's been good progress. We've learned a lot, but it's also been an internal exercise primarily. And coming up next, we want to adopt an actionable framework. We want to become a certified B Corp. And in a To put that in other words, for those of you who are not familiar with what is a B Corp, B Corps, they work towards a world where business is a force for good and plays a leading role in positively impacting and transforming the global economy into a more inclusive, equitable, and regenerative system. That's taken from the website, sorry that I'm reading aloud, but I think they formulated it quite well. What is great on top of that, because we subscribe to that idea, is that we are with the B Corp certification, we are getting a verified framework that we can use. They look holistically at our processes and they validate our work externally. It's not just us anymore. And to add to that, we are also going to be committing to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, more specifically the goals listed here. And again, we are doing this because we believe these goals, they matter and they are within our reach. They are we are in an industry where we can actually influence these goals, and we can also test that the impact that we are making is actually lining up with what the UN is aiming for with the Sustainable Development Goals. So that's a bit about the future and our strategies, and there's a bit more to come. But over to you, Javier.
Thank you, Martin. Good. This is being a little bit what we have been doing so far, and we are aiming to do in the future. But when Martin and I were thinking about what we would like to share with you, and it's nice to show this impact report and where we're going. We also like to share a little bit the pains, some of the learnings that we get in this journey so far, and something that if me personally, for the first time, I have to just come to my organization and trying to outline these challenges or become a more sustainable and impactful company. I obviously would love to know this a little bit in advance. So please take this with a grain of salt because it's our experience, but hopefully can basically help you to bring this discussion. We keep it into 5 because it's a beautiful number. For sure, we can just go a bit more in details. And that reminds me, please, if you have any question, feel free to put it in the Q&A. We can cover it at the end of the session. Okay? So, lesson number 1. And the lesson number 1 is a painful one. That is, you need to lock these discussions at the absolutely all levels of your organization. It's not only the management who wants to do something or it will be great for the employees. It's crucially important that your clients, they are able to understand what you do and why you do it, what you're trying to achieve. Your board of directors needs to buy this very well because it's not a small challenge, it's not a small investment. So you need to be 100% sure that everybody is able to follow your lead because it's going to be long and painful sometimes. And it's also quite important that you're able to lock this macro vision, this big dream that you want to have, and at the same time, tailor into small actions that you can just follow and track, because it's easy to say, I like to become a carbon neutral company. I think all of us, we have this dream and we like to be that. But it's extremely difficult when you go deep into how to do this as a company and feels like sometimes like an impossible. So be 100% sure that people is with you all the time. Sell the dream, but at the same time, be able to commit into the actions that everybody can just follow and make you accountable for. The second one, which is even painful, so I'm talking about pains today, is impact innovation is a very long run exercise. You might have the will, you might have the means, you might have your whole organization dreaming with you on create something incredible, but it's a long path. It's a long journey. It takes time, and also there is a lot of learning and self-discovery in the process as a company. You might sometimes think that you do things slightly better than you do, then you compare market. It's not the same. Sometimes the nature of your business is playing against you, as in our case, our cloud computing is obviously not helping us sometimes being as green as we would like to be as a company. So prepare yourself for that. Create a good path that you can just basically follow and track. focus on the continuous improvement. As you see, this year we have been focused on reducing the CO2 per capita because we truly believe that is a good thing to keep us on our toes and taking decisions in the daily basics. And because it's a long journey, start now. Don't think about during the next fiscal year, we're going to consider. Don't consider start now because it's going to take quite a long time. Just to give you an idea, when we decide to just discuss about this B Corp thing and there, 6 months down the road, we're still in the middle of the process of doing things here and there because, of course, we have a business to attend. And as I mentioned before, priorities, they are always a tricky thing. The number 3, Martin, I think you are more qualified than me.
Yes. And allow me then to try to put a positive spin on this, because even though the CO2 calculations are quite tricky and they do take a lot of time, then and I can just repeat what you said, Javier, start early. You'll discover a lot of things that you didn't know were necessary, or at least should be considered to be factored in. Even though it's tricky, I want to say that it's also coming back to us already today, that we are receiving questions from our clients or potential clients about what are we doing in terms of reducing our CO2 footprint and sustainability, or improving our sustainability. And we are starting to have questions to these answers now. So just to put that in there, that even though you might not be legally required to do this, there is gold at the end of the rainbow, and just getting started and identifying where you can improve is more important than planning and having an ambition. We discovered that I mentioned the documentation of your calculations and how did you calculate. We also discovered quite quickly that we needed to move into scope 3, which is both before and after the product is launched. And once you go down that road, you are going to be overwhelmed. So yeah, just to reinstate, start early and ally with your finance team and whoever else is able to provide data with you across your organization, product team, or whatever. Make sure you set the right team so you have easy access to this data. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Maybe on that point, if I can just add something from my own brewing, is be careful when you compare with other players. Every industry is different. Sometimes it's extremely depressing because you see your numbers and then you see a company that is 5 times yours, that is reporting half of those, and you consider, okay, when I'm doing wrong, you don't know exactly which is the nature of the other business. You don't know exactly the path that they have been following. You don't compete against the market. It's a competition against yourself of becoming better year after year. As I mentioned, it's a path, and especially CO2 calculations, they are a tricky monster and need to be taken very consistently.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. I would like to move to something more positive.
Yes.
It's probably the most positive angle that I get from my journey on that. If you bring this concept of creating sustainable companies, creating companies that they drive a positive impact from all kinds of stakeholders, you should embrace this in a deeper level than what many companies does. Many companies, they look to this positive impact, to a more environmental approach to business, how to become more green. I truly believe that there is like a great opportunity to expand this and not thinking only on your green profile, your impact on the planet, or doing something similar that we are doing right now, that is opening this a little bit and thinking we want to be sustainable in all the things that we do. Means that we want to be a green company, we want to be socially responsible, but we also want to have around us a little bit of more sustainable environment with our partners on the business that we do, being able to be a company that is able to maintain a deep relation with our ecosystem in the long term. We believe that we can just create value. So for us, the sustainability is the people, is the planet, and is the way that we operate the company. We try to look from this angle. It's being extremely helpful. It's something that is being extremely easy sometimes to make people in the company understand, our employees to understand, our board of directors to understand that it's not only we are creating a greener company, we are creating a company that is more resilient for the challenges of the future. So far, so good. And actually, we are also excited about, creating this triple sustainability inside our companies. Happy to keep elaborating on this in the future if you have some questions on that. And the last one, before we share some material with you, is find a framework. Is overwhelming the amount of things that we can do, literally overwhelming. And there is like overwhelming the amount of demands that sometimes we can put in ourselves, our employees, they put in ourselves. Many of us, we are lucky enough to work in companies that our employees, they are looking to you and demand that you are good and making good and doing good, so to speak. So because of that, sometimes the number of options, there are simply way too many. And where to start is a little bit crazy. My approach is, of course, start, but at the moment that you first a little bit face the wall of, okay, but what is the right thing to do? Try to embrace a framework. There's many. Today we are mentioning the B Corp, which is one of my favorites, and I have personally really good experiences. It was helping previous companies very well. It was helping previous businesses very well. Don't underestimate that, of course. Companies and businesses, they are changing right now. We like to work with companies that they are beyond a business, a good partner. So for us, we believe that the B Corp is a good certification. We are trying to get it as soon as possible. But also we decide to embrace sustainable development goals as a framework. For us is also very overwhelming. There's like 17 different goals and sub goals, and it's extremely crazy. We decide to be focused right now into 5 that we believe that they are close to our way to operate and doing business and help us to take decisions. That's the most important thing of these frameworks. They put you a little bit into sometimes a very uncomfortable box, because you have to face your own reality and figure out that you might not be as good as you think you are. But it's also helping to take decision and figure out like, hey, it's very clear that I'm missing a couple of things. Obviously, these frameworks, they need to be taken with a grain of salt, because of course there are cultural differences on those. Sometimes when you read the requirements, a few things, they might not make a lot of sense in Europe, especially when we look into the B Corp. But overall, is a really, really good, useful tools, and hopefully something that we as a company, we're going to continue working with it for quite a long time. We are almost done.
Yeah.
So if you have any question, please drop into it. Allow me to share a couple of last things. Maybe we did a decent job inspiring you a little bit and you want to know more. Of course, you always can contact us. We're going to get back to you. And of course, we're going to share this video and these slides with you. But if you're curious and if you want to know a little bit more, both me and Martin, we were looking around from the top level and figured out which material around we believe that this is cool and inspirational and a good place to get overview. For me, the SDG goals is a must read. I mean, everybody should sit on that, even though if you don't want to make an impactful company, I think makes completely sense, because it's probably the biggest orchestration of efforts around the world to basically change the business paradigm. Then the frameworks, I mentioned the B Corp, the ISO 26000 is also a popular one. Some people like it more than the B Corp. It's more accessible. Some also certifications around that, they might be like better for some companies. Just take a look to it. Among the top industry players, and I'm picking up these 3 players because they are close to our industry, both Microsoft, Apple, and Alphabet, they have extensive documentation on the different impact activities they have, and especially how they are being creating accountability around that is quite interesting and impactful. Of course, we can read these reports with different angles and have personal considerations on that. And then for inspiration, we need to look to the champions. There's many. I of course always mention Patagonia, because by nature is a company that has been inspiring a lot of movement, especially in the US market, and is probably the biggest champion on the B Corp network. So if you're curious and you want to know more, as we said, contact us, or please follow any of those links. 100% sure that you can just get an even better inspiration. Okay, good. Oops.
Yeah.
So, time for the questions, if any. Let us know.
We have Onno Van Gils who raised a hand. Here you go. Onno, you should be allowed to speak now if you unmute.
Thank you, Martin.
Hey.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for the inspirational session and presentation. I'm wondering, how far are you willing to take this? I mean, this is already resolved in a result in some discussions within the company of Umbraco for, let's say, or have an example for about Code Garden. Are you willing to go that far that you will move Code Garden, for example, to a more central location in Europe to emphasize everything you have showed us today?
Yeah, I can just take. Thank you for the question. Actually, is a really valid one, because obviously, as we mentioned, traveling is our second source of emissions, and we want to basically make it as less as a problem as possible. Obviously, there is ways to travel to Denmark in a way that is not by plane, but of course we know that it's not super convenient. Obviously, we calculate the cost of Code Garden as in terms of CO2, and of course is high. We are aiming to reduce it, and we have been taking a few decisions around that. But again, it's a question of priorities. We want to deliver a great product. We want to deliver a great service. We want to keep honoring the expectations, the commitment that the community has with us, and at the same time, looking for a more green angle. I'm not sure if the solution that you are presenting here of moving to a more central European thing is the right solution or not, because time will tell. But definitely, where we are going to see in the next editions is a way deeper green approach to that. We still don't know, and this is probably one of the biggest learnings and discussions to have internally. We are in the process. We still don't know any of those things, but we keep this very, very present. So hopefully we will be able to make this a more green event. Our idea is to become carbon neutral as a company at some point. How to do this, we still don't know, but definitely is in the agenda. If you have suggestions, please let us know.
Yes, there will be opportunities at the table talks where I'll be attending to come talk about sustainability at Code Garden as well. And we've done a number of initiatives to make Code Garden greener this year around, while maintaining it in Odense, inviting you to the home city of Umbraco. Then we can do a lot of things other than moving the location, and we are looking at all of them.
Thanks for your answers. I mean, it's really helpful, and thanks for your thoughts on the future of Code Garden. It wasn't really, I wasn't expecting you to give a glimpse about whether it will be moved or not. It's not a discussion. I was really interested in how committed do you need to be if you start this process, because if you are not willing to look into such matters, I don't think it's worth to start a project like this. What's your opinion about that?
Thank you for that. Definitely, we are. We have a couple of other questions. One thing Chris was talking about, hey, if we move Cove Garden to Copenhagen, we will remove 1,200 train journeys. I think we're gonna remove a little bit less. We have hundreds of people from Odense to be there. But saying that, the biggest challenge on the calculation of transportation is flights by a huge mile. Trains, through the fact that they are public transportation and the way that is working on the calculations is way less impactful. It's way easier to send 1,200 people by train than a couple of dozens by flight, that's for sure. But thank you for the suggestion. It's not the first time that it comes to the table. Ulrika is asking if we use a particular platform for the calculation of the emissions and what is the recommendation? Oh,
well, yes, we do use a particular platform. We are currently using something called Position Green. And what is my recommendation after having tried using that platform plus Excel is definitely look into finding a platform that's right for you. They come in various shapes and sizes for various degrees of granularity, and they are all very eager to introduce their product to you. What I think is our main takeaway is that once you settle on a platform, at least we want to stay on that platform for a while because we want to have the consistency and the traceability in how we did our calculation. Once you are on a platform and has done your first year's calculations, then it's a lot easier to repeat the process than if you're moving between platforms, or in our case, from a spreadsheet to a platform.
Yep.
So yes, we are, and can definitely recommend it.
Also, if you are in a little bit more advanced stage on getting certifications, calculate your footprint, and at the same time, other things around that. There is a lot of platforms in the market. Recently, we are being introduced to something called Future Proof or Proof Future. Sorry, I don't know. I think it's called Future Proof, which is actually quite impressive. And I think makes the life of the project manager that has to deal this in a company. Many of us, we don't have the luxury to dedicate a full-time employee to do this, but makes the life of people working with that extremely, extremely easy. So I was quite impressed about that.
Yeah. And just to add to that, the way, or a concrete way it makes it easier is if you're new to this, the platform doesn't only come with a nice set of dashboards, it also comes with the process outlined in front of you. So you go from having to have everything in a spreadsheet to putting it, now I'm reducing the complexity a bit, but answering a questionnaire. So you are certain that you are answering the right questions, you're filling in the right data with the platform.
Well, fantastic. We don't have any other question here. So for the sake of time, just to let's cut off. Thank you so much. Oh, whoa. We have one question from Connor. How far did you make your in-house calculations before you switched to using a Position Green?
Yes, well, we actually we did a full year where the only time we introduced a platform was when we were done with the calculation in a spreadsheet. So we got quite far. We got I want to say too far without a platform, but on the upside, what it did do for us was that we needed, or we got an understanding of everything that's touching Umbraco in terms of financial registrations, and that will eventually translate into CO2 emissions. But if I could do it over again, I would start with the platform.
Yeah, agree. The last question is, are we writing the impact report to be compatible with the CSRD requirements?
To some extent, on the CO2 emissions level, yes. And if there are more
Yeah, my understanding is there is a few more around that
Yeah.
is not relevant for us. So we are like right now picking up the elements that we truly believe can help us to take better decisions and do it better. Hopefully, this report is going to be radically different in 1, 2, 3 editions from now on. So definitely something new. Anyway. Now this is the real one. So thank you all for joining us today. We're going to share this by tomorrow.
Yes, the video will be available tomorrow and will be shared with you.
Hopefully we are being inspireful and entertaining to you. And if you have any question, please let us know and, have a fantastic rest of the day.
Yes.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.